The Earth seems calm, solid, stone. We build cities on it, drive foundations, raise skyscrapers, as if trusting that it rests on something permanent. But it's an illusion. The Earth has never been still. Beneath the thin layer of soil we walk on, something moves. Deep, slow, relentless. The entire planet pulses, breathes, tightens, relaxes. An earthquake is simply the moment when that breath becomes visible. Earth is not a dead rock drifting in space, but a living body. Heat circulates inside, remembering the birth of the solar system. This heat moves the continental plates, which float like massive islands on the molten ocean of the mantle. These plates are constantly shifting, only a few centimeters per year, yet enough to reshape the face of the world. When they collide, mountains rise. When they pull apart, oceans form. When pressure builds too long, rocks bend, creak, fracture. The Earth holds its breath, and suddenly, in a single second, it all releases. Energy stored for hundreds or thousands of years bursts free in an instant. The Earth cracks, sending waves through rock like sound through strings. You don't see them, but you feel everything around start to dance. Walls tremble, the ground undulates, rivers heave. This is when we remember we stand on nothing certain. The foundation we thought eternal is merely a thin crust atop a flowing ocean of fire. An earthquake is not anger. It's not punishment or a signal of the end. It's the whisper of a planet reminding us it is alive. That beneath our feet, continents converse slowly and powerfully. That everything we perceive as permanent is just a moment between two quakes. Every crack, every fissure, echoes movements ongoing for billions of years. Earth has never stopped forming. It simply does so quietly beneath our cities, where few listen, and when it speaks, it does so in a language unmistakable. Beneath the crust we walk on lies a world unseen, unimaginable to most. It's not solid rock, an endless hard surface. Earth is layered like a living organism, each layer with its own rhythm, pressure, and movement. Below us is the mantle, hot and plastic, where rocks behave like slow-moving liquid. It lifts continents, enormous lithospheric plates drifting like massive rafts on a molten sea. These plates are tens of kilometers thick, weigh billions of tons, and move a few centimeters per year. It's less than a fingernail grows, yet enough to reshape continents. When plates collide head-on, Earth rises. The Himalayas, Alps, and Andes were born this way. When they diverge, planetary wounds open, fissures through which lava flows. New oceans are born. Where one plate subducts beneath another, Earth consumes itself, remelting rock into molten fire. At these boundaries, the most dramatic and beautiful geological phenomena arise. Earthquakes, volcanoes, mountains, and new islands. Each plate movement is part of a 4 billion year dance, continuous and majestic, measured in eras, not minutes. But this dance is not gentle. When plates grind together, rocks between them tension like a spring. Centuries, millennia pass until the stress is too great. Then comes the fracture. A fraction of a second releases energy surpassing all the bombs on Earth. The planet straightens, seeks balance. This is why earthquakes always happen along the same lines. Scars crossing continents. Each is a boundary where plates meet. Pacific, Eurasian, Indian, African, Nazca. There the Earth's greatest dramas unfold. Where the Pacific presses against Asia, the Himalayas rise and Japan trembles daily. Where Africa moves away from Arabia, a new ocean forms, and a continent slowly splits. This motion will never cease. Earth knows no stillness. What seems permanent is just a moment of balance between forces. Though we like to believe we stand on solid ground, the truth is different. Our entire civilization rests on a moving plate, silently drifting beneath us. Everything begins in silence. Not ordinary silence, but a depth where the world seems to forget to breathe. Rocks hold tension built over decades or centuries. Each tiny fragment strains to move, but something restrains it. Energy grows patiently. Then one grain of mineral, one fracture, fails. Everything moves. The fracture races through rocks at the speed of sound, sometimes faster. A wave, invisible, of released energy runs into the planet and toward the surface. Earth doesn't break like glass. It undulates, twists, bends. Vibrations travel through rock like through an instrument. First, longitudinal waves, quick, subtle, compressing and stretching the ground. Then transverse waves, slower but stronger, making Earth sway like an ocean. Finally, surface waves, the most destructive, roll over the crust like giant combs, breaking what humans built in the illusion of permanence. For Earth, it's a moment, a pulse of balance. For humans, it is eternity. A second can transform the landscape of an entire region. Cities tremble, rivers change course, mountains shed their slopes. The planet reminds everyone who truly holds power. Beneath the surface, everything happens in silence. Waves race through continents, reflect off rock layers, dissipate in the mantle. But the trace remains in every seismograph, a thin, trembling line telling the story of the event. Seismologists can read almost everything from it. Where the fracture began, how deep, how far energy traveled. It's like the planet's signature, its own voice. And even though today we can measure every tremor, we still cannot predict that first crack. We don't know which fissure will yield next, or exactly when rock will surrender. Earth gives no warnings. For it, this is not catastrophe. It is a return to equilibrium. The moment the Earth cracks, it does not destroy. It straightens. For the planet, it is just a reflex, as natural as a heartbeat. But for us, fragile beings built on what is temporary, it is a moment when the illusion of stability shatters. Nothing that lives on a trembling planet is truly permanent. When the ground shakes, it does not always fracture. Sometimes, it flows. This is one of the most unsettling phenomena accompanying earthquakes. Ground that was solid as stone moments before suddenly behaves like a dense liquid. Buildings sink. Roads ripple as if a river runs beneath them, and mixtures of sand and water ooze from fissures. This soil liquefaction can destroy entire cities, even when the earthquake itself is not especially strong. To understand, we must go deeper, literally. Most of the land we stand on is not solid rock, but deposits. Layers of sand, silt, and clay accumulated over millennia in river valleys, deltas, and coastal plains. The particles are loose, not cemented, and water fills the spaces between them. Normally, these particles form a stable structure. The ground seems solid because friction holds the grains in equilibrium. During an earthquake, this delicate balance is disturbed. Seismic waves shake the soil with tremendous frequency and energy. Sand particles shift, losing contact with one another. The water trapped between them has no time to escape. Pore pressure spikes. At a certain point, the water lifts the particles as if eroding them from below. Friction disappears. Suddenly, what was earth behaves like a liquid. This is when the ground begins to flow. Buildings that once stood firmly tilt and collapse as their foundations lose support. Pipes, bridges, and roads bend as if their underpinnings were removed. In some places, water and sand burst to the surface, creating mud geysers and sediment fountains. Areas most vulnerable to this phenomenon are deltas, alluvial plains, and man-made fills, precisely where humans tend to build cities. This happened in 1964 in Niigata, Japan. Within minutes, entire neighborhoods tilted, and steel fuel tanks toppled like cans. In 2011, in Tokyo and surrounding areas, streets literally floated, and parks and waterfronts sank. Soil liquefaction is not just spectacular, it is a major engineering challenge. In seismically active regions, soil is studied for liquefaction risk. Special foundations are used, piles driven down to solid rock, drainage systems to lower groundwater, and embankment reinforcements. Humans have learned that not all ground is truly solid. Physically, this is just a change in pore pressure. But for someone on the surface, it appears nightmarish, as if the planet temporarily forgot what solid ground is. In reality, it is just another demonstration that the Earth, even at its calmest, is never truly still. Some earthquakes do not end in minutes. They remain, not in soil or buildings, but in the memory of the world. They change rivers, shift coasts, force entire cities to adapt. Sometimes a few seconds can alter a continent's map. Earth trembles, and what remains is not just ruins. It is evidence that the planet still breathes, that something beneath our feet moves, unstoppable. The largest earthquakes are not merely disasters, they are acts of geological creation. In the Andes, the Himalayas, and subduction zones where one plate dives beneath another, the earth does not just break, it is born. Each earthquake is a fragment of a new mountain beginning to rise toward the sky. But where a new peak emerges, valleys, cities, and civilizations may be lost. Earth gives and takes in the same motion. After one of these tremors, coastlines can shift by tens of meters. Ocean waters retreat as if inhaling, then rush back with force. Ports vanish, replaced by mudflats. In Chile, after a major quake, entire coastlines rose several meters. Beaches, once submerged, suddenly towered above the waves. Elsewhere, land sank below sea level, and bays swallowed villages and fields. Some cities are simply unlucky, built in vulnerable spots. Earthquakes can not only destroy homes, but also reshape streets, rivers, and valley forms. Lakes disappear where the ground tears, and new ones appear where it collapses like soft bread. Entire landscapes can be born this way. What looks like ruin is, for Earth, evolution in motion. The largest quakes always bring silence afterward. Not the noise of rubble, but a strange, unnatural emptiness. People are left with fear and the realization that what they considered permanent is not. In Japan, the sea claims land after a quake, but leaves behind something else: humility before nature. In South America, people still point to where the earth cracked and shifted meters, speaking of it with reverence, as if marking something sacred. Earthquakes also reveal what was hidden. After tremors, new rock layers emerge in mountains, springs appear in valleys, and archaeologists find traces of older settlements in ruined cities. It's as if Earth, shaking us, sometimes wants to show its history, to remind us of what came before. Perhaps the greatest mark of an earthquake is not in the landscape, but in how humans view the world. When everything you consider certain, ground, home, road, begins to move, there is only one truth. We have no control over the earth. We are guests on it, for as long as it allows. Humans have always tended to build where they should not. On volcanoes, by the ocean, on the edges of faults that only appear dormant. Because where earth is restless, it is often fertile, rich, beautiful. Volcanoes give soil, rivers carry water, seismic zones conceal resources. That is why the oldest cities often sit on tectonic plate edges. And though the ground sometimes shakes beneath them, people keep returning. Today, it is no longer blind bravery. It is a race with nature. Engineers, architects, and scientists try to tame what cannot be stopped. They learn not how to prevent earthquakes, but how to survive them. This is the philosophy of modern cities on the edge. Not resistance, but resilience. In Tokyo, skyscrapers dance with the earth. Not of stone, not of concrete, but of materials that bend and return to shape. Their foundations contain massive dampers, fluid-filled columns, sliding bearings, spring systems, allowing entire buildings to sway with the seismic wave. From the outside, it is a forest of concrete, but beneath lies engineering designed like a living body, capable of surviving because it can move. Los Angeles, Santiago, Wellington. Each of these cities lives with the same awareness. Streets are crisscrossed with evacuation routes, buildings designed to withstand the moment when the ground loses patience. Schools teach children to curl under their desks when everything begins to shake. Offices and homes keep emergency kits, water, flashlights, radios, batteries. It is a daily life that has become ritual. Where the earth can move, preparation is a form of respect. Some cities have gone even further, building systems that can hear an earthquake before it arrives. In Japan and Mexico, networks of sensors spread across the country detect the first harmless P waves and automatically send warnings. Within seconds, trains can be stopped, gas lines shut off, elevators unlocked, all before the real tremor hits. A moment, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but in that world, an eternity. Yet technology can be powerless against human nature. The longer there are no shocks, the more people forget. They venture where they shouldn't, build where the earth has already cracked. Geological history is relentless. Every fracture eventually repeats. The Earth has no memory as we understand it, but it follows its cycles. Cities on the edge live in rhythm with these cycles. For a tourist, it's a skyline of skyscrapers. For a resident, it's the daily balance between calm and tension. Everyone knows that beneath their feet lies something that can awaken. But no one thinks about it constantly. Otherwise, life there would be impossible. The paradox is that these most dangerous places are often the most innovative. Fear of the ground drives people to invent solutions that protect not just buildings, but entire civilizations. We've learned that we don't need to build walls against nature. We just need to learn to move with it. Perhaps that is the secret of cities on the edge. They know another quake will come. Yet they keep building, not from arrogance, but from the necessity of living. Humanity always chooses the boundary. Where the earth ends, courage begins. Not everyone watches monitors. Some press their ear to the ground. Earthquakes don't always start when the soil shakes. Sometimes they whisper first. Before a wave arrives, something in the world shifts. The earth emits sounds humans usually cannot hear. Infrasound, low rumbles at frequencies so deep that only animals sense them. Perhaps that is why animals have long been the first seismologists. Fish rise to the surface. Dogs howl. Birds take flight at night, as if the sky suddenly lost its weight. In Asia, it is said that the day before an earthquake, horses become nervous. Snakes leave their burrows even in winter. Scientists once dismissed this as legend, but now know some animals can detect micro-vibrations and electromagnetic changes that precede tremors. Subtle signals, imperceptible to us, yet loud to them. Humans have always tried to understand this cry. In ancient times, temples were built where the earth could speak through rustle, sound, and echo. 2,000 years ago in China, the first seismoscope was invented. A bronze vessel with dragon heads that released balls when the earth shook. Today we have satellites, sensors, and computers recording every tremor from the other side of the planet. And yet, we still cannot predict the next one. Seismologists live in tension. They know the waves, the faults, the pressures of plates, but not the exact moment the earth will move. They learn not merely to predict, but to listen. In labs, they analyze vibrations lasting seconds, distinguishing random noise from the signs of catastrophe. Sometimes it truly sounds like music, a series of pulses that in the hands of a researcher becomes a planetary score. Others are instinctive listeners. In the Andes, shepherds say the earth breathes differently before a quake. In Japan, fishermen feel the harbor water grow heavier, as if something moves below. This is not magic, but experience passed through generations. A human version of a sense once shared by all. Modern science and ancient intuition increasingly converge. Satellites observe surface deformations, while thousands of people report animal behavior, scents, sounds. Signals we still try to weave into coherent meaning. Perhaps the key lies in this combination: data and instinct, numbers and intuition. One thing is certain: the earth always warns. It never acts truly, suddenly. We just have learned not to listen. Busy building, planning, we drown out its rhythm. Yet it speaks constantly. Through vibrations, ozone smells, animal movements, the tension in the air. An earthquake always seems like an end. When the soil cracks, buildings crumble, streets ripple like water, it is hard to believe anything good can come. But for the planet, it is not disaster. It is a process. A movement that must occur to release built-up tension. For us, it is drama. For Earth, it is breath. When all is quiet, the landscape looks like a battlefield. Destroyed cities, collapsed bridges, cracked roads. But within days, change begins. Water seeps from fissures, mud spreads in valleys, soon to become fertile soil. Seeds that lay dormant deep underground gain access to light. Months later, the first grasses. A year later, trees. Decades later, entire forests, which would not exist without the fracture of the ground. This is how new valleys and plains are born. Each earthquake is a geological sculpture, moving rocks, redirecting rivers, creating lakes and canyons. Where the earth sank, water reservoirs form. Where it rose, terraces and cliffs appear. For humans, it is tragedy. For geology, it is continuation. What we call destruction, the planet calls balance. Where agricultural fields cracked, animals eventually return. Where humans did not rebuild, nature quietly reclaims. Moss enters fissures, followed by roots, ants, rodents, birds. Earth does not need a reconstruction plan. It has done this for millions of years. Every wound becomes a beginning. For humans, returning is harder. After great earthquakes, people are slow to rebuild. They leave ruins as monuments, yet eventually, inevitably, they come back. That is human nature, to return to places that remember. Around the ruins, new cities grow. Better, stronger, more aware. And although each generation promises never to forget, it is precisely forgetting that allows life to resume. Geologists studying ancient faults can read traces of hundreds of such earth breaths. Each layer, each displacement, is a record. The earth cracked here, then healed, then cracked again. It is a cycle lasting millions of years. Humans think in generations. Earth thinks in epochs. For it, each earthquake is but a single pulse in a long rhythm of life. There are places where the earth has shaken so many times that no one counts anymore. And yet forests grow, people live, cities stand. The earth always returns to balance. Its wounds are not scars. They are new lines of life. Will earthquakes ever stop? The question sounds like a prayer, as if we are asking the planet to finally settle down. But the earth does not know rest. Its motion is not a system error. It is the system. As long as life exists, plates will shift beneath our feet. Continents will grind, mountains will rise, and faults will tear open. Earthquakes are not a sickness of the planet. They are its heartbeat. Each tremor is simply the release of tension that has been building for thousands of years. It's as if the earth holds its breath for ages, then exhales in a single motion. When it does, everything shakes. But in this trembling surface, there is no malice, only balance. Perhaps a day will come when earthquakes truly cease. But if that day arrives, it would not be good news. It would mean the earth has stopped living. The plates have frozen, its interior cooled, and the planet has become a cold, stony shell, dead like the moon. The silence we long for would be the silence of everything ended. It is precisely because of its motion that the earth remains a planet, not a monument. What we call disaster, it calls evolution. Every quake is a new chapter in its story. Perhaps the last in one place, but never the last overall. Humans live too briefly to grasp the planet's rhythm. For us, 1,000 years feels eternal. For Earth, it is a single heartbeat. If we could watch it in fast forward, we would see everything in motion. Mountains rise and crumble, continents drift, oceans close and open. This is not a world in chaos. It is a world in motion. Earthquakes will not cease as long as the earth exists, and perhaps that is a blessing. For as long as it shakes, it breathes. And as long as it breathes, we too have a chance to live. And here lies the deepest paradox. Life emerges from instability. If the earth were calm, there would be no mountains, oceans, or rivers. There would be no us. So the next time the ground moves, remember, it is not the end of the world. It is simply a reminder that the world endures.